Hi, I'm Gigguk, and this is Every Framer. So in my previous video where I picked out and broke down a few examples of brilliant fights in anime, a number of you commented, and I'm sure many more of you thought, that I only picked the Naruto fight simply because of the sponsor of that video. And you know, that kind of hurt my feelings, implying that you'd think I'd have my opinion swayed just because someone was paying me for it, which is exactly why you can watch all of Naruto on crunchyroll.com/theanimezone. I'm kidding. This message has been sponsored and approved by Salt. Do you like being salty? Then please be sure to show your continued support for my videos by being salty. Now, plenty of examples were suggested of fights that carry more emotional weights behind them, and while I agree most of the fights end up being more emotional thanks to a better plot build-up, I feel like Naruto has some fights that execute storytelling even better in their scenes alone. So let me explain to you why, on a technical level, Naruto has at least 2 examples of some of the best storytelling to ever come out of an anime fight. No, this is not fucking satire. But yes, they also have some very shit fights. Now, I mainly talked about the Naruto Sasuke fight in the video, but the one fight that almost took that spot was Kakashi and Obito's fight that came before, which does some aspects even better than the latter fight, but just missed out as it was shorter and wasn't as complete a story. You may be thinking, well, who fucking cares how well a fight tells a story? It's just 2 peeps beating the shit out of each other. Can't you just appreciate a fight for that? Well, what I have to say to that is, even if you don't realize it, every fight tells a story. Every fight has a reason and emotions behind it, even if in most cases it's just a very simple story like, oh mate, you're starting, mate, you're starting. Mate, you're starting. Mate, I'll fuck you up, mate. Mate, I'll fuck you up like I fucked your mum. Oi, my mum's not a slag, your mum's a slag. Oh, don't say that about my mum, mate. Mate. In these 2 fights, the story is very similar. 2 old friends fighting each other to defend their ideals, and it just so happens that their beliefs are so strong that they are willing to fight to the death for it. And the way they portray this story with minimal dialogue is what sets them apart from most other anime fights. To illustrate what I'm talking about, let me take an example of another fight that I really love, Ryuko vs Satsuki's first duel in Kill la Kill. Now, just from these scenes alone, see how much you can tell about the story, the emotions, and the thoughts of the characters, where the fighters are even talking to each other. As opposed to this scene, done without any dialogue. Okay, you may think I'm being a little unfair to use a fight whose main selling point is the spectacle, and don't get me wrong, I absolutely love this fight. But in terms of being able to portray the story behind a fight, the character's thoughts and emotions, I feel that the latter fight has a much greater impact, even though there's no dialogue, it's much quieter, and that it's from fucking Naruto. The way the fight juxtaposes the 2 fighters' current and younger selves among this beautifully choreographed exchange gives us a better sense of what's going on along with their history. These are 2 fighters communicating purely through their fists, and we know what they are saying without them actually saying anything. And to cap it off, look at how they show us how Obito rejected the ideals of his former younger self to get to where he is now. This goes beyond just being a brilliant fight. This is brilliant visual storytelling, and the Naruto Sasuke fight borrows a lot of the same beats from this, as it does well to show the communication 2 people can have with their fists as opposed to their words. By this point in the series, the final epic save the world battle has already been done and dusted, and there is nothing really at stake here except for their own ideologies. In the larger picture, this fight is actually far less important, but at the same time, that's why it works as a story, as the entire purpose of this fight is to bring closure to both their character arcs. And that's exactly how it plays out. The start of the fight unfolds with a complete lack of music to help emphasize that this brawl is about these 2 guys communicating with each other and not the larger plot. By this point, they both have such a deep understanding of how each other thinks and feels that there is no longer any need for words. I briefly mentioned this in my fight video, but we are even subtly shown how much they understand each other in the fight. Throughout the whole series, we see how reliant Naruto is on his shadow clone jutsu. Like he's that one cunt playing a fighting game who only knows that one OP move and keeps spamming it to victory. So with that in mind, look how Naruto almost immediately resorts to trying to get off the shadow clone hand sign, and how Sasuke is very aware and consciously reacts and stops him from doing so. Naruto tries this a whole 4 times before succeeding, and I'm betting a bunch of you wouldn't have even noticed this on your first viewing, as it's not something that's really highlighted, but it's subtle details like this that shows that a lot of thought has been put into the character actions in this fight. The middle of the fight is a flashy extension showing how far both guys have come since childhood, and that despite all this time, their relationship has not changed that much. They've just found bigger and more powerful ways to bicker with one another about their beliefs. But the message can't get any purer as when the fight just divulges into the fist fight. As I said, it's incredibly intense and chock full of emotion, and it's the direction that makes it feel so gritty and real. Teeth are knocked out, blood is fucking spilled everywhere. Fuck man, this fight's so raw that just add some crowd noises, make it a vertical shot, and shit boy, it's now become a WildStar video.
Die! Oh my god! Die!
All this leads up to one of my favorite shots of the entire franchise. This 1.5 minute long unbroken shot just slowly panning in closer to the two of them. Still brawling it out till sundown with hardly enough energy left to throw a punch. You don't need words to describe how both of them feel, both physically and mentally. And the long shot just emphasizes the fatigue as it feels just exhausting watching it. But while the fight does great to portray these emotions and story, the reason I picked it over Kakashi vs Obito is that it does well to end stories too. Firstly, check out this beautiful little moment between Naruto and Kurama that really came out of nowhere. This little fist bump that you saw manages to conclude the character arcs between these two characters perfectly. As we've seen throughout the series, Kurama transforms from this terrifying beast that would have ripped Naruto apart, to a grouchy old fox, to just full fucking tsundere by the end. I mean, screw Naruto Hinata, Naruto Sakura, or even Naruto Sasuke. This is the real fucking ship of the series.
I'm the one who's been inside you this entire time.
Oh god, please stop saying it like that. This fist bump manages to encapsulate how their relationship has evolved over time with just such a simple, beautiful action. And the best part is, this amazing little moment wasn't even in the manga. It's entirely an anime-only moment that manages to build on what we know about the characters. This all builds up to the ending of the fight, as while it might just seem like a normal cliched final clash to end the fight, this one contains so much more than that. Aside from the obvious scroll through their characters through the ages, we see the hands of different people helping power their attacks, with Naruto starting off with Jiraiya and then everyone else close to him. And for Sasuke, we see the slight glimpse of a hand which is probably his brother's. And this subtle detail perfectly encapsulates what both characters are about. Naruto's driving force throughout the entire series has been the desire to be accepted by everyone, and now that he's achieved it, that's what he's fighting for. While for Sasuke, though he'd like to think that he's doing this all for himself, has been driven by his brother's experience. This final clash doesn't just symbolize the end of the fight, but it perfectly caps off the journey both characters have taken to get to this point, and the conflict of ideology which this fight was all about. Again, this is beyond just a brilliant fight. This is brilliant visual storytelling, and these two fights showcase some of the best examples of something Naruto is quite universally famous for not doing. Subtlety. It's not what the scenes tells us that makes them so good, but it's what it lets us discern for ourselves. And what I find amazing is how they manage to sum up so many emotions, so many thoughts, and even finish up character arcs with minimal dialogue exchange between the characters. This takes me to the biggest thing holding back these fights, which aren't even the fight themselves, but the build up to the fights. See, despite everything I've said, I'm sure the majority of you will still regard your favorite Naruto fight to be either Rock Lee vs Gaara, or even the first Naruto Sasuke fight. And rightly so, as a simple reason to that is because we are more emotionally attached to those fights. The problem with these ones is that the plot and character arcs building up to these events were so badly done that by the time the fights happened, the majority of us had already given up on the series or just dropped it entirely. Obito turned out to be just a rather disposable villain, all things said and done, and Sasuke's character arc was horrible. His journey throughout the series was all over the fucking place, and I'd be doubtful to find many people who genuinely think that Sasuke wasn't a laughably bad, planned out character. It's the motivation of these characters that are questionable rather than the fights themselves. We are less invested in these fights than we ever were with our favorite fights in other anime series or even previous Naruto fights, despite how brilliantly executed these are. A great example of how important it is to have a proper build up to fights is in One Piece. See, on a technical level, a lot of One Piece fights don't look that impressive compared to some of its shonen competitors, but it's a masterclass at getting us to truly care about what is happening, which is why they feel so epic. The fights themselves are just an extension of the emotion and the story that have been built up, and it does it so well that it can make us genuinely invested and care about characters that look like this. Like this. Which is why even though these are two fights that have some of the best examples of storytelling, they've been largely overlooked by the greater anime community, despite being executed so damn impressively. In fact, I'd go so far to say that had the characters been built up better and the audience were more emotionally attached, these would definitely go down as some of the greatest fights in anime history, because god damn, these are just brilliantly directed scenes in general, regardless of it being a fight or not. And that's the other reason I wanted to make this video. I feel like shonen anime can get a bum rep simply because it's shonen. And you know, sometimes it's understandable, as the community can be toxic, there's a lot of crap, and these are only two great scenes in, oh god, maybe dying of old age would be a faster way out. But that doesn't mean that shonen can't have equally brilliantly directed sequences that deserve praise as much as any other mature, multi-layered anime. Behind all the screaming 14-year-olds, there can actually be merit behind some of these moments containing your favorite edgelord characters. Just leave the secret shonen tards like me to wade through the hundreds of episodes so I can find that one moment where I can go, see guys, punching people in the face can be art too. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, then be sure to check out my previous fight video, where I talk about a bunch of other great anime fights as well. Also, if you'd like to see more content from me, then you consider supporting me on Patreon. Also, you may have now heard that YouTube favors content that gets more likes, so please like the video! I'm kidding, you just like it if you just like the video, I don't care. Anyway, that's it from me, I've been Gigguk, and I'll see you all next time.